Welcome to the Terry Sullivan Show. Today's guest from Legacy Music Studios, Jenny James. And now here's Terry Sullivan.
He did that just like I taught him.
That's amazing. I wish I could be introduced that way every day. Yeah.
Well, you need to teach your husband that. You need
Seriously.
you need to say, Steve, this is how I want you to introduce me every morning that I get up.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But
Yeah,
I
well,
can ask him.
How did he do?
Oh, he's phenomenal. Like, if you need a day job, come hang out with us and come teach with us.
That's the only song he knows.
Oh, okay. All right. You need to learn a few more genres,
Yeah,
but it's good. Okay.
That's Terry. That's Terry V. Good,
Okay. He's
good
pretty
friend. Been
good.
playing a long time. Played with some of the biggest names in the business, and I'm so glad that he's part of us. I'm so glad you're here.
I know. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. And you brought your
I brought
entourage.
my friends, some of my teachers. So, our work day doesn't start till a little later. So, otherwise they'd just be hanging out or sleeping or whatever. So I was like, get up and join me. So
Well, if you do poorly, I'll just get one of them over here.
that's right.
and-
They can answer these questions too. So yeah.
Jenny, you and Steve
Yes.
own. I'm gonna give him a little bit of credit here.
Yeah. He did put some money in it. So yeah, I give him credit.
Well, there you go. He's the money guy. So you and Steve own Legacy Music Studio in Old Town Lewisville.
Yes.
So let's go back a little bit. Now you've been teaching music a long time.
A long time.
I mean, well, at least 2 years, because we don't want to
That's
reveal
right,
your
yeah.
age or anything like that, because
That's
you look
right.
like you're
Thank
25.
Thank you. Little older than that, but yes. Started teaching music in 2005. I was teaching school before that in 1999. See, I'm really dating myself. So, but yeah, I've been teaching piano for 17, 18 years, but we opened Legacy Music Studio 5 years ago in Old Town Lewisville.
We're going to get into that because that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
That's an interesting building that you're
Yes.
in Old Town, and so we're going to get into
Yeah.
that. I think, as a matter of fact, I think it's probably maybe the oldest historic building in Lewisville.
It's definitely one of the oldest. Kelly Blackhall, she would be the one to tell you her house is actually even older, but it definitely dates back to the late 1800s. And there's stories of the cattle run to the city being right next to it. It was used for a family for decades, and then it was a church parsonage even before that. And so, I mean, it's been around a long time. So
We're going to talk more about that, but let's go back. You were a school teacher before you started teaching music. So has music always been a passion for you?
It has. I think I started in piano lessons when I was in second grade, and I probably was like most kids and didn't want to do it, but my mom made me go do it, and she finally let me quit when I got into middle school. But from there, I moved into French horn and playing in a church band. So I took my piano skills and did that, joined handbells, and kind of ventured into lots of things like that. So in high school, I got to start playing for my church, and then went to Baylor and went into education, but I wasn't ready to give up music yet. So I just kind of took some different classes. Learned to play the organ, the handbell choir there, took a lot of fun music classes, and just somehow ended up with a minor in music without really even trying. But I thought, I'll just teach elementary school. So I went in and started teaching. I taught third, fourth, fifth grade. And then when I became a mom, I wasn't going to go back to school, but I thought, what can I do? And so I realized, well, I can teach and I can play piano, so maybe I can teach piano. So I had a friend help me get started, and it just kind of grew out of my house.
So that's very interesting. So you play a lot of instruments.
I do.
I mean, are you fluid on a lot of instruments?
No, I mean, nowadays I just tell everyone I'm a one-trick pony. I play the piano. I can play brass instruments because once you play one, you can play others. The organ is a dying instrument, unfortunately. You won't find organs around much anymore. So
What was that old church organ? A Hammond B3?
yes, the Hammond B3. And you know, now that sound is replicated on digitals all the
Studios,
time.
right,
And it's
right.
used, I mean, bands love that sound. So, but it's just not practical. The organ itself is not practical.
Well, it weighs like
so
25,000
it's
pounds.
so heavy. And then it's only a few churches probably around the state that actually have a real organ. So sadly, it is kind of a dying instrument. But I did get to learn to play it, which was fun. But it's a very hard instrument to play because you're reading 3 lines of music at once. You're playing with your feet and both hands. And so in the long run, there's not a lot of job opportunities for organ. So I went with teaching piano. So
Let me ask you a question. Do you like that fly flying around
I
your
know,
head?
I keep seeing it, but okay, we'll get it. I'll
you're
swat
being-
it. It's all right.
You're being so calm,
I
and I
know,
see
I'm
that
like-
fly going around, and I'm thinking, land,
Playing.
dude.
I know. Give me a fly swatter, we'll get it.
So, you saw this building in Old Town.
Yes,
I love Old Town, Lewisville.
I do too. I do too.
It's such a neat part of not just Lewisville, but the whole state of Texas. And
Yeah.
and of course the city is in Old Town. The city built a city hall in Old Town, and
Yeah.
we have great leaders in our town.
Yeah.
Claire Powell is the city manager. Eric's who's been there forever. Our economic development team. What I appreciate most about these people is that they have a heart, not only for their job, but for the people of Lewisville, wanting to make Lewisville a better place
Yes.
to be. They truly believe that. It's not just politics
Right.
to them. We'll talk about them later, but I love talking about them because I love them.
Yeah.
So you saw this building and you thought, well, what did you think? I'm just going to turn that into a music studio?
Yeah. I kind of always in the back of my mind, I wanted to find a place for us to land that wasn't near, like doctor's offices, insurance. We didn't need to be retail front and center. Our space on Main Street for a few years worked out fine, but it was in an old rundown strip center that I could tell they eventually maybe were going to do something else with it. We were renting just things that we couldn't change because we didn't own it. And so in the back of my mind, I was dreaming up, okay, is there a house? Is there a place that we can move to? And so I'd kind of been wondering and looking around. I had a friend that's an Old Town realtor, Randy Dukes, and she found this home for me. And she said, there's this house. It's right behind City Hall, so it's still in Old Town. She said, but the deal is it's under contract right now, and it's under contract to be torn down and made into more condos. So I was like, well, can we go see it? She said, we can go see it, but it's under contract. We walked in, and I was like, this is it. I was like, it was perfect. I could just see the vision for it. Immediately got my husband to look. He was like, okay, I could see us doing this.
But wait a minute. It's old.
It's old.
Did you not go, or did he? Now, Steve would do that. Did he not go, whatever you want, honey, but this is going to be a lot of work?
I think he did a little of that. I think he definitely was kind of, eyes were really big, but I'm just like, no, this is great. This is great. We can totally, and he was just kind of like, oh, okay. But I got my parents to come too. And my dad kind of put his arm around and said, Steve, this is a great property. Look at this yard. This is really great. The location's great. So I think from there, we were like, well, there's no harm in just maybe writing a letter to the family, submitting an offer. It was a long shot because it was under contract. Also, this was happening in March of 2020. It was right after you opened this place.
Right.
We all know what was going on in the world. So we were also kind of crazy thinking this is not the time to buy real estate because we don't know what's happening in the world. But we're like, well, why not try? So wrote a letter to the family, and turns out they're now good friends of mine, the Allen family. They've been around forever. You can't go anywhere without knowing someone who knows the Allens.
They are. There's Old Town
Yes.
people, and then there's Old Town people. The Allens are really Old Town people.
Yes, really Old Town people. And when I started talking with people around about that house, all I would hear was, oh, Miss Allen, she baked the best pies. Miss Allen, if you were hungry, she would feed you. Miss Allen opened the door to everyone. And then just come to find out, when we wrote that letter and they were like, yes, we don't want to sell to the condos. We want to sell to you. Because I told them, we want to be a music studio here, and we want to train up worship leaders, and we want to love on children and teach them. And so they just resonated with that too, because they're the same kind of people.
Sure.
So I felt like I was just meeting my extended family. And when we closed, they sent me a stack of letters where they all wrote to me about what that house meant to them and the memories they have. And it was really precious because our goal was to save and keep as much of the original structure. We tore off some of the back that had been added on, but we were able just to clean her up and just make her look beautiful again.
And
so
you did. And
we
you
did. Yeah.
By the way, the condo developer's still not very happy with you.
I don't think they are. They went around the corner. They still got some condos in, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The city's happy because they look out their backyard and they see our beautiful house.
The city loves you.
They do. You know, it's people talk about that like, oh my gosh, doing a project like this is just a nightmare and can be so hard on a marriage and so hard with, you know, everything. But honestly, we made a commitment from early on that we are using only Old Town people on this project. So everyone we worked with, when they showed up, they would tell us stories about, oh, I had pie here with Miss Allen, or, you know, I ate dinner here. Or I remember back in high school, we'd come here after homecoming. So everyone actually really attached to the project too. The Cades, so Terry Cade, so generous in helping us out with some things. Brian from Brian's Automotive that used to be next door, he said, I got some old floors I want to donate to you. So I felt like in a lot of ways, the community really kind of rallied around. Any given time, people would just pop in and be like, can I see what you're doing? I'm like, come on in. If you want to pull some nails out of the board, you know, yes, we're doing this together, and because this is community, and this is what we want to be a part of, is community. So.
Well, the community engaged with you.
Yes.
And are still engaged with you. You're such a delight. You and Steve, you're such a delight.
Oh,
so they're so good for our city, for the city of Lewisville, for Old Town. How many students do you have?
So overall, across all of our teachers, probably 240, 250. I myself I usually maintain about 35. That kind of keeps me pretty busy. Some of our teachers, some of them have full studios of 40 students. Some just have 5 or 6 because they have other jobs. So we're just kind of a community of teachers that we teach together, but I'm not their boss per se. They all kind of run their own studio of students, but we just do life together, and we like to teach our children together. So they just all have their own space, and we do it together.
I'm gonna need for you to teach me how to play the guitar like Terry over there.
Okay.
In 10 minutes. Is that possible?
Well, you probably don't want me. I can do the G shapes, so a little bit, but my guitar teachers would really laugh at the idea that I would be teaching guitar. You don't really want me.
Can you, out of all those students that you have, can you pick out the ones that are just exceptional, that you go, I mean, do you have any prodigy kids?
We do. I mean, for sure. We've had a few that have come through. I had one that had perfect pitch, and I didn't realize it till a few months in, when I think sometimes kids that have perfect pitch don't know they have it until it's recognized, because they think everyone has perfect pitch. So it's kind of a weird thing when suddenly, there's that fly, when they can just hear a note and just sing it out, and you press on the piano, you're like, wow, you nailed it. Perfect tempo, and when you're like, okay, this needs to be at whatever, and they can go right at it. So there's some giftings. We have several kids that have special needs. Our autistic children are exceptionally bright, and if we find their right spot with us, they just shine.
What is it with you and that fly?
I know, this fly. We'll get it.
Let's get it!
Some of our kids, it takes a while, and you know, they'll stay with us for a few years, and then suddenly maybe year 3 or year 4, something just clicks, and they just walk in and start playing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been like pulling and pushing and trying to get this out of you, and suddenly it makes sense. So the great thing with our students is they're really all on their own journey, and we meet them where they're at that day, because I know they're coming to us from like super crazy busy schedules, and we're just one slice of little pie in their life. And so I'm like, I tell all of our teachers, we get you for 30 minutes, and we're gonna make this the best 30 minutes of your week. You're gonna leave feeling better about yourself. You've learned a little something, and we're gonna build confidence in you. So everyone's journey is a little different, but we've had some crazy talented kids come through. Some of them I say I'm just a music dealer for, because you're actually better than me, but I can find the right music you need to be learning. And if they say, oh, can you play this for me? And I'm like, give me a second, because you actually are an exceptional piano player. It's gonna take me a second. It might be a little slower, but I can get you there, so.
Which is harder? A kid that doesn't know anything about anything,
yeah,
or a kid that's got natural talent? Which is the harder student?
Oh man, that's a good question. I actually love the ones that don't know anything about anything, because nowadays kids come in like, oh, I've been watching YouTube, and so they've learned these bad habits, or they've learned it incorrectly, and so from there I feel like we have to actually kind of take some steps back, where they think they already can do something. They kind of come in with well, you can just learn this real quick, I should be able to do it. But the kids that come in with that natural talent where they just play by ear, but they want to learn to read music, that can be such a struggle too, because they don't want to rely on seeing the music. They want to just play what they hear. So they'll be like, oh, why don't you play that song for me first, so I make sure I know how it goes.
Tricky.
But they're not learning to read it. They're actually they're just listening to what I do, and they'll imitate me. So it's definitely like with each of those types, just knowing like, okay, this is what I got to do in order to get you there on your next step in learning. So
what causes that? I've always been intrigued with people who could play anything by ear. They hear it, they play it.
Yeah.
I don't understand that whole process.
There is a select group that come in that way. I wouldn't say I'd say more than not, people aren't that way. But the ones that do come in that way, if they want to continue on that journey, just playing by ear, that's fine. We can do that. If they come in and they're like, now I want to learn to read music, it can be a little more challenging. But I always say you kind of fall somewhere in between. You're very good like visual learner, or you're a really good auditory learner. And so I gotta figure out how you learn. And then, and some are kinesthetic, like I gotta put your fingers on that piano and I gotta push them down so you understand what's going on. So once I kind of figure out how you learn best, then that's the way we're gonna go. But I'm gonna make sure it's not a crutch for you where you always rely on me playing for you first, or you don't hear me play. So there's a good balance, because otherwise it's a disservice when I'm teaching them.
So, so do you have kids that where 3 or 4 weeks into it, you're going, how do you tell the parents, this kid should not be here?
We've had that happen, even with one of my teachers that's here with me today. We've had to have these little conversations.
That brings back bad memories, by the way.
Does that hurt you? Yeah, we're like, so I got to tell you, our goal is really, we want this to be a positive experience for the family, for the student, and for us. And so if by week 4, we're seeing, man, they are making it very clear they don't want to be here, or maybe they're too young, the attention span is there, and we will try every trick we got to make it great. But I like to really be honest with the parents, because sometimes I tell them, you can start them when they're 5 years old, or you can start them when they're 10, but by the age of 13, they really still might be in the same place. Because a 10-year-old who's ready to learn and wants to be there and is excited and knows what kind of songs they want to learn, in 3 years, we can get them to this place. Someone who's 5 and just being drugged there and doesn't want to do it, and it can be a painful several years. We can still get them there, but sometimes waiting, and we'll even say, hey, you know what, maybe even next semester, because you're really busy with baseball and soccer. And so if this isn't positive and working for you, let's take a time out, because I don't want to just take your money.
Yeah,
I want you back.
But that's where you're different, though, see, because you're more interested in the student than you are in the check.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Here's a question. Is it true a tipping point in music is whenever someone finally gets the theory behind the music, no matter what instrument it is?
Oh, 100%, because you get students, their main goal is to be like your friend here, right? Be able to take the stage and play. And so they don't understand why we're doing all these songs out of the book, and we're doing all this theory and learning chords and a progression and everything behind it. But then one day we say, okay, remember how we've worked on all these scales and we've done this? Now I'm going to play you a Taylor Swift song. It's 4 chords over and over and over. And all you got to do is those chords, and you've just played her song. Sometimes a lot of music that's out nowadays is so easy and simple in a lot of ways. And so we can get students where they can feel so successful doing that cool stuff. Beethoven, Bach, some of that's really hard because it has to be played a certain way. But even, what these guys here on any given Friday or Saturday night play for you, they might play it one way, and the next weekend they might play it totally different. And so to have that, learn to be able to improvise, feel comfortable, and understand the theory behind what you're doing, then you get creative, and then it becomes really fun. And so that's where we want to get our students. We're looking to make lifelong musicians. So if you can, at whatever age, still sit down and play your instrument and pick out a tune, that's the goal. And so that's what's really fun. And it does connect. At one point, you're like, oh, this is why I've been doing this for a few years. Now this makes sense. And then they're sometimes off and running. And I might say, hey, they got it. You know what? They can come back to me this summer when they're ready for more music.
You know, that's kind of the way it is in so many different, whether it's sports or music, with a kid especially. And it's fun. I was talking with Coach Odell, head coach of Lewisville Farmers, recently, and he said one of the most fun things about kids is when you finally see lights come on and they get it.
Yes.
You're teaching, and all of a sudden they come and they get it.
Yes.
And then you can take them further.
Yes.
So for your students, oh, by the way, Terry V, I don't think I don't know you only know 2 chords.
I think he knows a few more.
3 chords, yeah.
Well, you got to know the minor too, so he's got 4 at least in his pocket.
So let's say you take a kid, when do you know that the only thing left for this kid is to go study at college or whatever? When do you know that?
Really?
And what do you tell them? I mean, they've fallen in love with you. They've been with you for years. You go, I've done all I can do.
It's funny. I will tell all the parents sometimes when when they know, okay, piano just doesn't fit in this year, or like it's time for us to move on. I tell them, guess what? Everyone quits piano at some point. I quit taking 2, and it's okay. It's part of life. And so when I know if their goal, some of these kids come to me like, my goal is to make the worship team at my church. Great. And once I get you there, if you want to check in with me every now and then, you get a hard song, you don't understand something, just come in and we can do a one-off lesson. If their goal is I want to go and major in music, well, honestly, some of those kiddos that want to be classically trained majoring music, that's not my cup of tea necessarily.
Right.
So if you want to do that, I'll get you to a certain point, and then I'm going to move you to someone who wants to study extensively, work on one piece for a year. That's not my jam. It doesn't get me too excited, but I know my bread and butter is to like find the goal of the student and get them there. And I've had I got one that's been with me 10 years coming back. I've had her since kindergarten. She's going to be 10th, 11th grade now. I've had some I just have until they go to 6th grade and get in band, or their goal is to get into orchestra. So we are a lot of times just the jump start to their next part of their musical journey. And so they're not always going to stay with us. Sometimes they stay with me and then they're ready to go learn guitar. So they're going to move on to guitar. Yeah. And then they might come back to me. But I always say, once you're in our family, you're just in our family, you're always welcome to come. Yeah. We get the siblings, their friends. So even when they're out of my life, come graduation time, we get a ton of announcements, and there they are, and we get to send all of our kiddos off.
Well, you're like a coach. You're the coach.
That's it.
Coach Odell said the same thing. He said he's got kids that he coached 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That you're just so much a part of each other's chemistry.
I got legacy grandbabies now, is what I say, because some of my students are now married and have kids. Actually, some of my teachers were my students. So some of my coworkers now used to be my babies, you know. Yeah. So it's really fun.
What's the one, so you're proficient at piano. What is the one, everybody wants to do something that they don't do.
Yeah.
What's the one instrument that you say, man, I wish I could play that well?
Well, it would be guitar. And I've done everything. I've bought the guitar, and I carry the guitar around with me to places. Yeah. Yeah. And I've taken a few classes. Yeah. But I don't practice.
But can you play it?
No, because I don't work at it. But I want to play it.
I'm going to start carrying a piano around with me.
Right. So, that's the thing. It's like just like my students, when they come and they're like, they haven't gotten any better. I'm like, well, you haven't practiced. Like, how do you know? Well, because you'd be better. So, like, do I want? I do. I'll kind of play. But then it hurts my fingers, Terry. You have to build up the calluses, and anyway. So yeah. But
what a sissy.
I am.
All right. So let's talk about Steve.
Yeah. Let's talk about Steve.
He is your backbone.
He is.
He's your rock.
He is. Yep.
Oh, by the way, don't think I don't know too. Some of the girls that stay with you forever, it's because they're in love with Carter.
Carter.
What a great kid.
He's a great kid, and he's getting to work for you now. And
I'm gonna ruin him.
Okay. Yeah. He loves it. This is the perfect fit for him.
It really is. Yeah. We have live music on Friday and Saturday night. And he's just bouncing all the time. He's dancing, he's bouncing. I love it.
Yeah.
So Steve is a coach at SMU.
He works in the athletic department in the facilities, events, and operations.
But he also umpires.
He does. So we own an umpire agency. Oh. So he umpires baseball. We field umpires for lots of tournaments. And then he also refs soccer. And then he, works at SME. He's about to, come fall, he revs up things and will be in volleyball, football. He pretty much sets up, tears down all the things that need to happen, make sure everything's ready for game days. He's the guy that walks around in a suit, so if you need something, to go find him.
Yeah.
But he loves it. He did a traditional business job for years, and he traveled. And one day he was like, I don't like this. And we're like, you have one life. What do you want to do? And he said, I want to get into sports. And so he went back and got his master's in sports management, and then chased down this job. And he does umpiring. We just have weird working hours, weird careers. So
he is a wonderful person.
He's great. Yeah.
No, he's really great.
Yeah.
Now, he did a lot of the work on this old house.
He did, because when
he would come in here and he would be all sweating and hot. And I go, what are you doing?
I know.
I'm working. She's making me work.
I know. We took all that cheesecloth off the walls, and it had threads. And he would spend hours a day with scissors just cutting threads off of the walls. It was COVID, and no one was out doing anything. So he would just go to the house almost every day, pulling down boards. It was just a labor of love.
Yeah.
And we discovered lots of cool things on the property, and were able to really salvage some things and took our time. Had we just gone in and demoed, I think we would have missed a lot of treasures that were found. And so I look back actually on 2020, and it was a very special time, because while everything was kind of shut down, our family worked together on that property to prepare it for what it is now.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, you couldn't teach during 2020, right?
We were online.
You were online. That was a difficult, challenging year for you.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you made it through it. You've got a great school, great teachers. Some of those teachers are here with you today.
Yeah.
Great students. You have a blessed life. You
So
love
blessed.
God with all your heart.
Yes.
You have a great family, great kids.
Yeah.
We're so honored that
Thank
you are a
you.
part of Old Town Lewisville.
Thank you.
Take us out, T. He can play any style.
Anything.
Any style.
I could listen to him all day.
Woo!
So good.